Now I know a lot of you are going to be relieved that this is not another Gordon Ryan video, and it may come as a surprise, but it's not about leg locks either. At least not directly. This video is going to be about the Choi Bar, and if you don't know what that is, I'm going to let the man Lachlan Giles explain it himself.
Named after a guy, Choi who actually got this technique on me and then actually looked up a few YouTube clips and he actually gets on everyone, so I decided I'd try and learn it.
And not only did he learn it, it looked to be his primary strategy heading into ADCC, where he tended to use it in a lot of open guard scenarios, which tend to be a little dynamic. So I think the best way to go about making this video is to talk about the half guard entries that we saw all over ADCC, and then circle back at the end of the video to talk about Lachlan Giles and his more dynamic open guard entries. And after you watch this entire video, you're going to have a great outline of the Choi Bar. So you're going to leave a fist bump in the comment section to show your appreciation, and then you're going to go check out Lachlan's new course on SUBMETA, all about Choi Bars from open guard. And only watchers of this YouTube channel are able to use the code LIMI16 to either get $16 off your first month, which makes it less than $10 to try the SUBMETA platform. Or if you're already sold on SUBMETA, you can take $16 off the annual subscription to make your monthly payments as low as possible. And I know I am super excited about this new partnership, and I imagine a lot of you are as well. And I wanted to briefly apologize for the audio quality in this video because I've recorded it in about 6 different places, and at every location it does sound a little bit different, and I just wanted to briefly apologize for that and let you know that after this week we'll be back on the grind. And now let's dive into the video. Now the Choi Bar is a submission like we see Dante using here, but it can also be used to take the back like we see Andre from the Discord doing here. And at ADCC, Sam was able to use the Choi Bar to expose the back of Gary Tonin. And he eventually took the back using the chair sit to get his points and win the match. And I know we're going to veer off the tracks a little bit here, but I think this is a good time to explain why I think the chair sit should not be your first option from this position. And it comes down to the idea of diagonal control, where in this scenario, our hook is preventing our opponent from turning to their left, and our underhook is preventing them from turning to their right. Now when we chair sit, we end up on the underhook side. And from the underhook side, we have great diagonal control as long as we have both hooks in or a fully locked body triangle. But if we don't have our top hook in, like when we do a chair sit, or maybe we open up our body triangle ourselves to trap our opponent's arm, that means that our diagonal control is compromised and our opponent can turtle very quickly. And when you combine that with the idea that from the overhook side, our opponent's top arm is going to be defending the choke, leaving their bottom arm available to grab our foot and clear our bottom hook. So from the underhook side, it's going to be the exact opposite. And our opponent's going to be using their bottom arm to defend the choke and use their top arm to clear our top hook. Now this can lead to some opportunistic arm traps, but if they're really good or they just have wrestler instincts, they're going to turtle, and when they do, it's going to be very easy for them to do that. And if you notice, as Gordon follows Craig up to turtle, they end up falling to the mat again, but this time they're on the overhook side, making it very difficult to turtle, and Gordon very easily throws in his second hook, locks up the body triangle, and then transitions back to the underhook side, where he now has full diagonal control. So my biggest fear is that my opponent will use the momentum of my sit to turtle very quickly and I'll lose everything. So then you might think to yourself, okay, just don't sit as aggressively. But then that opens the door for them to bridge over your leg and prevent the back take. So what you hear Gordon and Danaher preaching a lot and what you see Ffion doing here is using what's called a seated head and arm. And from this position, it's very hard for them to bridge over your leg, and they give you tons of back exposure as they try. And if you're looking for style points, the seated head and arm is the way to go, because it can be used to transition to other submissions like the rear triangle, which is tough to get out of, but definitely possible. But we're not going to talk about rear triangle defenses in our Choi Bar video. So while we're working our way back on topic, let me just remind you that Season 4 of PGF starts October 23rd, so be sure to tune in for that. And if you want to take your own jiu-jitsu to the next level, consider checking out Brandon's BJJ 365 subscription and use code JAKE for 25% off your first month to get a look inside Brandon's school and let him help you take your jiu-jitsu to the next level. Now, the reason I think the Choi Bar was so popular at ADCC, and it's something that you should consider adding to your game, is because it takes something that's supposed to be good for the guard passer and turns it into a liability. When you're starting out learning to pass the guard, one of the first things that's emphasized is the crossface. And this crossface is what initiates your guard passes. Problem is, when you try and dive on that crossface and underhook, that crossface can quickly turn into your opponent's underhook. And you can see Mika, who has a lot of experience in the gi, trying to set up this long step style of pass. but Dante's able to attack that crossface arm and force Mika to bail. And it's gotten to the point where it's almost like steak on a string, where bottom players are trying to force the top players into taking that crossface. And you can see Eoghan literally putting Shanji's hand right next to his face, baiting him to take that crossface. And you can see PJ Barch using the Darth Vader style choke on Dante, and Dante forces the crossface to attack the Choi Bar and ultimately get the finish. Now, kind of a gray area is when you get a crossface and underhook with really good head position. You can put a lot of pressure on your opponent and force them to use their second hand inside your bicep to free their head, which means they sacrifice their underhook on that side and thus their ability to use Choi Bars. But you can fully expect the bottom player to try and compromise your head position and get their frame back inside. And you may be able to put guard passing pressure on your opponent, but it's more likely you're going to lose your head position as they're recovering their guard and they can go right into their Choi Bars. And from the bottom player's perspective, I hope you see the value in this Choi Bar and being able to go from defense to offense very quickly. And right now we're going to talk about how I think it fits into our overall game. So from half guard, I think option 1 is we try that far side arm drag. And depending on their reaction, we can take their back, we can enter into their legs, or we can do the classic shoulder crunch sumigashi. And I'm just kind of breezing over it now because we went more in depth in this video here. So if you're interested in that, the link will be in the description below. And be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any videos and we can continue to progress together. So option 1 is that far side arm drag. If our opponent decides to use their other hand to push off of our beautiful future kimono's rash guard, they're giving us that near side arm. So now we can arm drag that near side arm. Or if they hunker down and they hide that near side arm by using the weave, you can still arm drag it Kieran style and take their back. And it looked like Eoghan and Kieran were training together leading into ADCC. But the problem is Eoghan is so jacked that he couldn't quite get his foot out when he was going for the Kieran style arm drag. But it's all good because if our arm drag sequence doesn't work, that's when we go underhook on the far side. And from that underhook, we start to attack our Choi Bars. And as our opponent postures to defend the Choi Bar, you can take that underhook arm and reach for your opponent's near leg. And if you started in butterfly half, now you find yourself in the false reap position. Now, this is just one sequence and it definitely doesn't have to be in this order. You can see Gordon initiating with that far side underhook to set up the arm drag. And you can see Craig initially diving for a leg, and a common defense to stop leg entries is a crossface, which leads perfectly to the Choi Bar. And I think entries such as this that mix the lower body and upper body attacks together are the most effective. You can see Eoghan initially reaching for that far leg, and Shanji counters with a crossface. And Eoghan starts to attack the upper body via Choi Bar. And as Shanji defends, Eoghan reaches to secure that near leg and facilitate his entry into inside Senkaku. So not only are they super effective at the highest levels, you look like a freaking rock star when you do it. And from a guard passing perspective, it can be very intimidating to try and pass a dangerous guard like this. But I think the best approach is to fight to get that near side underhook, and ideally lock your hands for the body lock. And here we see Mika employing the strategy against Oliver Taza, which you can use to pass your opponent's guard completely, or force them into half guard where you're chest to chest. And once you're chest to chest, now you can come up and get your crossface and underhook, like we see Mika doing against Dante. And you can see from flattened out half guard, it's going to be very hard to hit that Choi Bar. And if you're Kainan, you may be penalized, but this is a very effective way to shut down Choi Bars, and this is exactly what Nicky Rod did to pass the guard of Felipe Pena. The other option is to forgo the crossface and climb your way up to double underhooks, which if you're Kainan might lead to another penalty, but it's a very effective way to pass the guard. Another way to avoid Choi Bars is by using this overback grip, which Gordon has used a ton, especially in his recent matches. And if you can get your opponent to tap, then great, but more than likely they're going to try and pop their head out, or they're going to take a scoop grip on your leg and start to enter into deep half guard. So you kind of got to be prepared for both of those, but I really like the idea of using this underhook without the crossface to bring our opponent on their side and expose them to this overback grip. And from that overback grip, we can go full circle.
Triangle has like a corner in the end. This one. It's a circle.
By using the overback grip to force the body lock, use the body lock to force chest to chest half guard, use chest to chest half guard to get our crossface and underhook, and if you can't quite pass the guard from there, you can bring your head to the other side and then start digging for your second underhook. And that's how you can start to pass people's guards by using jiu-jitsu. And now let's talk about the man of the hour, which is Lachlan Giles. And one thing that I really respect about Lachlan is that in the last ADCC, when everyone was talking about passing the guard with inside position, Lachlan let his opponents get inside position and had a plan once they got to their preferred position. And leading into this ADCC, I felt like passing to north-south was going to be a very big theme. And Lachlan basically just said, okay, you get to north-south, I'm going to try and show off my Choi Bar game. So I just like the idea of letting your opponent get to a preferred position and you having an answer for it. I think that strategy embodies jiu-jitsu very well, and it's something that I admire Lachlan for doing at the highest level. And Lachlan had Kade in the first round, who is very good at passing from north-south. But someone who also tries Choi Bars from north-south is Diego Pato, and he almost caught an overextended Kade in an armbar in their match. And I think by now we all know how the match between Lachlan and Kade ended, but I just wanted to go over a few things that I think Lachlan is generally trying to do. But if you're interested in learning more about the Choi Bar from Open Guard, you should definitely check out his new course on SUBMETA. So I think the most basic entry is as your opponent is extending to try and separate your knees from your elbows, you take this grip on their arm as you extend your own leg to break their grip and allow you to initiate your Choi Bar entry. And ideally the arm doesn't end up on your top shoulder and you're able to force the crossface like Diego Pato does here to get that arm to your bottom shoulder. If they're trying to be more heavy on top of you, we need to make sure we have at least one knee on their collarbone. And what they're probably going to try and do is bring their hand to our knee and rip it out. But as they do, that opens the door for Lachlan to take his Choi Bar grips. And you can see here we're often going to be attacking the arm on the same side that our knee is in. What he does not want is his opponent to have a reverse underhook. So the first thing he does is he brings his elbow inside his opponent's armpit to free himself from that underhook. But now Kade pretty much has an overback grip, so the next step is to force that overback grip into a crossface by freeing your head. Or if they're nice enough, they won't even go for a reverse underhook and they'll just try and control your head. So now if you can free your head, you're going to be able to go right into your Choi Bar. And when they don't want to play the Choi Bar game, that's going to open up opportunities to enter into the legs. And that's when I think the Choi Bar starts to become a very dangerous tool we can add to our arsenal. But the major problem I'm seeing from Open Guard is that we don't really have anything preventing our opponent from stepping over our body. Where in Half Guard, you can use your second leg to prevent that. But often from Open Guard, they're going to be monitoring that leg. So I will be definitely looking out for that when watching the new course on SUBMETA. Be sure to subscribe, and if you're still here, leave a fist bump in the comments section, and we'll see you in the next video.